Hi there, I'm Angela Mappin, and today I'm pleased to be delivering the first of 4 bite-sized sessions designed to complement Stress Awareness Month. In this session, I'm sharing a metaphor model that will help you to connect with your own stresses and pressures, and also how they affect how you think, feel, and behave. This metaphor is called your pressure pot, and when you understand what it is and how it works for you, it can help to reduce your stress. April is Stress Awareness Month, and the theme this year is community. And how we connect with community might be through having a sense of belonging or even a connection with others. But however we use the definition, we're more able to feel that sense of community if we can cope well with everything we currently have on our plates. We can feel more able to cope if we understand how stress affects us and how we can keep our stress levels to a comfortable level. And one way to do this is to understand our pressure pot. And you might be wondering what a pressure pot is. So let me explain. A pressure pot is a metaphor model for helping us work out what things are causing us stress, and also to look at some things we might be able to do to reduce the impact of that stress. Your pressure pot is where you store all of your pressures and stresses. And I want you to think about where your pressure pot might be. Where do you store all of your stress and tension? Is it in your shoulders, your neck, your head, your back? This is where you will hold your pressure pot. And everyday pressures are flowing into your pot all the time. And you then process these everyday pressures and deal with them appropriately. And sometimes you can cope well with them, and other times not so well. Pressures can be both negative and positive. For example, going on holiday, getting married, or buying a house. They may all be positive experiences, but the organisation of them are pressures that may make us feel stressed. And stress is a normal reaction when we feel threatened or under pressure. And stress is something we all experience. And actually, it can be motivating to help us achieve things in our daily lives and can help us meet the demands we have both personally and professionally. But we all experience stress differently. Some people can deal with a great deal of pressure, and some people might find it difficult and stressful just to get out of the house each day. In the pressure pot model, the level of vulnerability a person carries is represented by the size of their pot into which everyday pressures flow. And the amount of stress we can deal with is represented by our level of vulnerability, and this determines the size of our pressure pot. Someone with a high level of vulnerability will have a pot that fills up quite quickly due to it being small, whereas someone who's more resilient and has a low level of vulnerability will have a larger container that will fill up more slowly. We can start to feel vulnerable, i.e., anxious, nervous, or stressed, when we're faced with many different things. And these can come from different sources, such as taking on too much, conflicts, loss, parenting, financial problems, work, personal relationships, daily life, and busyness of daily life. Any one of us can get to a point where our pressure pot becomes so full that it starts to overflow. And when your pressure pot overflows, difficulties develop and you'll start to experience what we call your stress signature. You'll know when your pressure pot is starting to overflow or become heavy because you'll notice differences in the way you think, feel, and behave. And it's beneficial to connect with your own stress signature so that when you start to notice these differences, you can implement some helpful and healthy coping strategies to release some of the pressure. And it's noticing these changes that are key to reducing your stress. So you might think, well, why do bad things always happen to me? Or I can't cope, or have a different negative outlook. You might feel overwhelmed or unable to cope, quite irritable, angry, or even aggressive. You might feel quite worried, anxious, or frustrated. You might be short or snappy with people, or notice changes in your sleep patterns, or even difficulty engaging with your interests. It's important that when we're experiencing stress and displaying our stress signature, we have useful methods that help us process these experiences and manage them in a healthy way. And these could include regular exercise, talking to a friend, engaging with a hobby or interest, listening to music, walking the dog, watching a film. Anything that helps you find relief from the ups and downs of everyday life. It's useful to think about how you enjoy releasing stress and pressure from your pressure pot. But sometimes we might engage with unhelpful coping methods, which will reduce our resilience to experiencing stress and make us worse in the long term, even if they might seem to help us in the short term. And we can look at this as blocking the tap, and it may include things like working long hours, self medicating with drugs and alcohol, or even not getting enough sleep. It's important to remember that we all use unhelpful coping strategies sometimes. However, as with any skill in life, it's possible to develop new healthy and helpful coping strategies. When our pressure pot is working normally and healthily, we process these everyday pressures and feel like we can cope with everything that's going on. And even when extreme pressure is applied, your pot can cope, but only when you allow some of the pressures to be released regularly. And we can release these pressures by allowing the tap on our pressure pot to open, which allows some of the pressure to empty. And we do this by engaging with our helpful and healthy coping strategies that we talked about earlier. You can start to address and reduce your stress by keeping your pressure pot healthy. And you can do this by identifying what's in your pressure pot and identifying and recognizing your own stress signature. How can you spot that your pot is close to overflowing? What are your warning signs? You might want to share your warning signs with others so that they can help you spot them. Start to implement helpful and healthy coping strategies, but think about what some of your helpful coping strategies are. But the key message is that if we're able to recognize when we have too much in our pressure pot, then we can take action to prevent ourselves from experiencing stress for long periods of time. So I want to thank you for joining me today and listening about the pressure pot. And as a takeaway, I really want you to think about what's in your pot and how might you keep it healthy. So take care, everyone, and I hope you can join me for our next bite-sized session, which is going to be called Bounce Back from Your Stress.